and welcome to another vintage day. I've decided to go on a bit of an adventure today. I thought I would drive out and see one of the last pioneer hewn log homes still standing in Klickitat County, which is in southern Washington. It was built in the 1890s and is located on the Conboy Lake National Wildlife Refuge. This area is also known as Camas Prairie, and the views here are absolutely stunning, especially at this time of the year. Originally, the house was thought to have been built by Stephen Whitcomb, one of the earliest European American settlers in the area. He arrived in 1874 when he was 50 years old. But during the move and the restoration of the house, clues were discovered that suggested the house was built by John Cole, who bought the land from Whitcomb in 1891. The property changed hands several times since, and around 1915, a kitchen room was added. The Cole family had 5 children. I can't even imagine living in the size of the original house before the kitchen was added with 5 kids. The main room was the heart of the home. It was the kitchen, the dining room, living room. It was everything. If walls could talk, I'm sure these would have a lot to say. But in a sense, they do talk, or at least they leave us messages in this home. At one time, they used newspaper to cover the walls so you can read little snippets of the past. And apparently on the second floor, that is now not accessible to the public, you can see the names of Harry, Rosie, and Bob Cole, the 3 youngest Cole children. They had written their names over and over again on the wall. Can you imagine them sitting there practicing their handwriting on the wall? Probably wouldn't go over so good nowadays. I can relate a bit to this type of life. My parents had the original homestead on their farm in North Dakota. It was from my father's side of the family, and it was basically what they called a tar paper shack. It had 2 very small rooms on the main floor and 1 big sleeping room upstairs, so very similar to this house that we're in today. We didn't have any running water. We had an outhouse and a hand pump well. We were fortunate though that we did have electricity. But I also want to show you a photo of what it was like to take a bath. You had a big old galvanized bin that you took a bath in, and this is a photo of my brother and myself taking a bath out on the farm. This house was last occupied in the 1950s, and then the house fell into disrepair. In 1987, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service moved the house from its original location, about 2 miles away as the crow flies, to the Refuge headquarters to protect it from fire and vandalism. In order to move this house, they had to dismantle it. The first floor, they took every board apart and labeled it. The second floor was then lowered and moved on a house-moving dolly. The kitchen that was added on was also moved separately. There has been continuous restoration on this house since 1987. The Whitcomb-Cole Hewn Log House is listed on the National Historic Register of Historic Places and considered historically significant as one of the last examples of pioneer log house construction in the region. It is located at the Conboy Lake National Wildlife Refuge. The refuge itself has wonderful views and easy walking trails. This National Wildlife Refuge supports an abundance of wildlife all year round. Among the most notable is Washington's only population of breeding sandhill cranes. Of course, there are numerous other bird species that frequent this area, and you can also see elk. The Conboy Lake area has a rich history, both from its early use by the Native Americans and from the early settlers to the valley. If you want to experience a bit of the past and enjoy some beautiful views, you need to visit this place. You'll be amazed at how quiet it is, except for the birds and the cattle mewing in the background. It's incredibly peaceful and easy on the soul. Nowadays, in our busy world, we tend to forget about the people who came before us. Can you imagine how isolated the first pioneers must have been? Growing up in the prairies of North Dakota, I remember the silence that was only interrupted by the birds and the cattle in the distance. This place reminds me of those days. Let's take a moment to appreciate the views and listen to the sounds of this beautiful place. The Whitcomb-Cole Hewn Log House is free to the public to explore, as is the Wildlife Refuge. It is located near Trout Lake, Washington. Thank you for joining another Vintage Day. If you like this video, please hit that thumbs up and also subscribe and share it with your friends. See you next time.